Well, let's imagine that you are going to make a plan of a native garden running through this area to the side of a recreational field, probably a football oval. So within the native vegetation area are some paths running through, and we want to get an accurate base plan made of this site using gCADPlus. So I've used Google Earth. I've, metaphorically speaking, flown to the site. I've made absolutely sure that I can see the scale bar down here, although later we'll try and do some further measurements of a known distance on the site, but I make sure that's there. The other thing is I use the U key. Nothing appears to happen because that makes sure you've got a top view. So we've got some interesting eucalypts through the site and other species that's heavily planted through here. What we're going to do is try and use this base plan use the base plan we generate from this, and we're going to tag some of the put some symbols in and tag them. Well, the next step, of course, is to save the image. So if we come up to this little button here, click on it, we can now save the image. So we'll call this one Darley Park. Now we click Save Image, and we'll put it somewhere where we can find it. For the moment, I'll pop it on my desktop, and we'll call this Darley Park, and we'll save it. Now I'll close from Google Earth, and we'll go and look at that image. Well, I've loaded IrfanView, my favourite image editor, and loaded the image we took from Google Earth and popped it in this image editor. Our label appears here. We have some tools here that we might use to auto-adjust colours or sharpen. I'd probably be inclined to sharpen this just a little. That gives me just a little more crispness, but as a backdrop to put into gCADPlus, I think that will work well. So we'll save it in its original folder, and we'll overwrite. We need to go to the desktop, the Darley Park, and there it is. Now we'll swing to gCADPlus, and it's just a matter of format, images, and add that image from the desktop. Of course, I'm looking in the wrong spot, the wrong desktop. This PC desktop, there's Darley. We can open it and insert it in the drawing. Pop it down as our insertion point, and we can just scale it. So now we're looking at the area of interest, and it's through here. So what we need to know and zoom in on is this scale bar. Well, we need to scale the image so any distance inquiry reads a sensible number. So we have a 50 metre scale bar. Let's use the distance command. I'm zoomed in so that I can see it easily, and we'll measure from one side to the other. That's measuring 1156. So the easiest way to do the conversion is to the calculator. That's loaded from the specialised toolbar in gCADPlus, and we put 50 divided by 1167 and multiply that by 1,000, and we get a value of 42.84. So we pick it and scale the base point 0,0, the scale factor 42.84, and we hit enter. The image gets scaled And I'll pan up a little, zoom in on here, and we now measure the distance from that point there across to here, and we've got 49.56, so we're awfully close to the 50,000 50 metre. So we now have an accurate base map where we can take measurements if we like. But this is a little project to document the native species in this little reserve. What I've done by starting that process is taking one of the symbols from the gCADPlus library up here and put it on top of an example of Eucalyptus macrandra, and you'll notice that when I click that symbol over here on the left, the botanical name, common name and the code, a unique 4-character code which is made up of the first 2 characters of the generic name and the first 2 characters of the species name are there. So we're saying that this particular plant, this eucalypt, is in that location. What you can do then is go to the gCADPlus drop menu and say we're going to put in some extended data, store extended data. So we can select the entity, we're going to pick that entity, and down here in the status line is this entity paving or decking or irrigation, lighting, whatever, but it happens to be, we're going to put some species information in there. So we type S and enter. Now up pops this box. So we can put the botanical name, and the common name, an estimate of height. It's a small tree, so we'll say that's about 8 metres. We don't, if you have been out with GPS, you could put in the Google KLM, so anybody looking at this information can fly to the site on Google Earth. You can also put in the GPS coordinates. You might want to set up a system where every tree that's labelled in on the image has a unique pair of coordinates. And you can also link to an LRL, the information about that particular species. If I go on the net and see what I can find, I think, let me just go there. We could, Gardening of Angus has got a very nice description of that particular plant. So we could copy that URL. Let's return here and paste that URL in there, and we can put lots of information, notes, etc. So when was this planted, has it been cultivated, what maintenance information is required, what time does it flower, and so on and so forth. So we can say OK. Now down in the status line is a little tag that says ENT, E-N-T, show or hide it. We can click that, it's now red, and as I move up near this symbol, up pops all that information that we've entered in. So you can see it's very, very interactive. If we had a store on our website and could load that photograph, you could just quickly go to it. Well, I'm not sure if I demonstrated it correctly, but this is the switch down here that hides or shows the entity data. And if I move near here, I see all the data that I've entered. But if I want to edit that data, come back here and store, pick it up. And because we've got the URL there, we can just click on it and it'll go straight to the detailed information on that species. So I hope that's an interesting look at gCADPlus working the beginnings of a master plan for a garden area.